Pratibodha viditam matamamrutatvam hi vindhate atmana vindhate viryam vidhyaya vindhate mritam. Pratibodha viditam matamamrutatvam hi vindhate atmana vindhate viryam vidhyaya vindhate mritam. So this mantra explains the truth. The truth is explained here. What it means is, indeed, one attains the immortality by cognizing the consciousness in every experience. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate. Vindate, one attains amrutatvam, which is the immortality. How? Pratibodha viditam matam. By awareing through the every state, by cognizing the consciousness in every state, in every experience, through oneself, atmana vindate viryam. Through oneself, one attains power, vidyaya vindate amrutam. Through knowledge, one attains immortality. Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatvam hi vindate. One attains immortality by cognizing the consciousness in every experience. Now, this mantra is talking of the very high spiritual practice known as an open-eyed meditation. An open-eyed meditation. Now, why it is called an open-eyed is when your eyes are open. What are you doing when your eyes are open? Either you are daydreaming, or what is the possibility? Balaji, what do you do when your eyes are open, Pa? I don't know whether his eyes are open or closed. Hero madhiri ukarnirukkinga.
Hello, sir. Okay. All right, sir. Hari Om Guruji.
Quickly corrected himself. Hi, sonne Hari Om. Enna Upanishad class enna.
Okay. Yeah, eyes, you see things. I mean, it's sense organ. You see things outside. Yeah. So
keeping your eyes open, what does it mean? The implication is
being alert. Implication.
Sir, we are using here it as open-eyed meditation.
Oh, okay.
See, so we're almost qualifying the word meditation, because usually meditation is sitting with your eyes closed, isn't it? So you're cutting yourself. Also, when you keep your eyes closed, what do? You're cutting off from the world. You're going inward, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Now, the opposite to that, when your eyes are open, what does it mean?
You are looking at the object, but your focus is on your subject.
Thought randa the answer. I said, when you close your eyes, what are you doing? You're going inward.
Yes.
When you open your eyes, where are you going?
Outside, yes.
Abba, avalda, oru vaartha I wanted outward. Adukku subject to object ennamo you.
This is Upanishad class, right? You the mind train that basis.
Leave that to me, no.
Okay.
Ella role you only play the role. What will happen to my role then? Enappa?
It's all your fault, sir. So yeah.
Yeah. Adu not fault da. Now, so eyes open means you are leading a life of action, isn't it? You are active, isn't it? So when you're active means you are in relationship with the world, isn't it?
Yep.
Because close is you're cutting yourself off the world. Eyes open means you're participating in the activities. Now, open-eyed meditation. So imagine when you remove the word meditation, if you are open-eyed in the world, means what? A person is running behind every possible attraction and temptation in the world, isn't it? When something attracts you, you are drawn, your attention is drawn to it, isn't it?
Yes.
But when you say open-eyed meditation, meditation means there is a thought pulsating through every experience. So open-eyed meditation is a very high spiritual practice which is done before you do the actual meditation. So a step before meditation, meditation is you sit with your eyes closed, cut off from the world, you are seeking solitude, you are within yourself, all right? Now, before that comes open-eyed, where you are moving about in the world doing certain activities, but in and through every activity, what is doing? You are awareing the consciousness through every experience. You're cognizing the self in every experience. Say, I'm only interpreting the first half of the verse. We says, Pratibodha viditam matam. When you are cognizing the self, cognizing it through every experience means what? Every experience you're going through, you're reminding yourself of the self.
Sorry,
Whether
sir,
you are...
Is that what you're saying? I mean, your mind in the jungle, your body in the marketplace. Is something like that, right?
Yes. You're physically, you're engaging because of certain, you have a vasana or you have a certain obligation or dharma. But your only interest is to get to the self. You know the story of the Dwarapalakas of the great Lord Narayana? You heard the story?
No, sir. Not sure.
See, there's this story of these two Dwarapalakas. Dwarapalakas means the doorkeepers. The story is Lord Vishnu, then, eh? Lord Vishnu, one day he was resting one afternoon. That doesn't mean everybody who rests in the afternoon is Lord Vishnu. Huh? Don't assume things. Contrary is not true. Rakshasas also sleep in the afternoon. Never mind. That doesn't mean every person who's sleeping is Rakshasa also. So that also is not true. So he was sleeping. So he kept two doorkeepers. Nobody disturbed him. So the doorkeepers were guarding the doors of Lord Vishnu. But there were some celebrated Swami who came to have the darshan of the Lord Vishnu. And these two doorkeepers stopped them and said, you can't go. And they were so infuriated that how could these two doorkeepers stop them? So they got very annoyed and there was a sort of argument, and by then Lord Vishnu came. By then the damage was done. They were so hurt, annoyed, they cursed them. They cursed them that you will be separated from the Lord. To cut the story short, Vishnu comes and sees the commotion going on and he says, what's going on? He said, we only followed your orders that you should not be disturbed, and these people have cursed us. Now I can't remove that curse of theirs, but I can ask them to consider. Then they were given a choice. Either you take 3 birds, as the worst enemies of Lord Vishnu, or you take 100 birds as the greatest devotees of Lord Vishnu. That means 100 janmas you will be born and you will be renowned as the greatest of bhaktas of Lord Vishnu. Are you following, Balaji?
Yes, sir.
I know your concentration is a little less. That's why I'm just making sure. So the story, these two doorkeepers were punished. Either you take 3 birds as worst enemies or take 100 birds as greatest devotees. You know what they chose? I'm not asking you, I'm asking what they chose. You would say, thank you, sir. I want to have a jolly good time. 100 birds, I will have maja, life, maja, I will have. I'm not asking you. What would they have chosen?
Three birds?
Yeah. Have I given you 100 multiple choice to choose from? Rendu choice da kurta. Adile, I said one other you have to choose. Idhukku ivlo thought, Amitama, look at this fellow. He is so much drama. One answer he gives so much drama. Half the class is gone because of this. Block this fellow from attending classes and tell you nuisance. Sir, he chose to be the worst enemies of Vishnu. And the reason is they wanted to quickly come back to the Lord again. The objective there was to quickly come back. And one of the birds is said to be, Rajima, you know what's the bird? One of the birds? Padminima. She seems to be knowing.
Would it be Hanumanji, Guruji?
Kumbhakarna.
Worst enemies, ma. Ninga vere Hanuman ever.
Ravana Kumbhakarna. One birth. And
correct.
Then, in Krishna.
Yes, Hariji.
Narasimha, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Yes.
Then Krishna Avatara.
UK, Teriyama, UK. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu is right. Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And the other is?
I'm not sure, Guruji. I'm not very sure.
It is not Kamsan. It is somebody else.
Yeah. So, you Google and find out, you will get this thing. So what we are trying to get at is every experience thereafter, they only wanted to get back to the self. So what is the objective of every action? So when you are in that open-eyed meditative state, you are actually in the, if you take the triangle, you're actually at the top of, almost at the top of a triangle, where you have no other vasanas, all other vasanas have dropped, and you have only little interest, and every interest thereafter is driven to the self. So whether you're seeing or hearing or tasting or touching or smelling or singing or whining or dining, whatever you're doing, only thought is moksha, moksha, moksha. Whether I eat onion dosa, whether you eat steamed dosa, whether I eat masala dosa, or what dosa you have, the only thought is moksha. Whether you may say past dosha, or I say I am stuck to dosha, I am in Vaikuntham. Eating a particular dosa, you could be in Vaikuntham, or I'm in seventh heaven, you can be. But if you having the same dosha for self-realization is better, rather than saying I'm in seventh heaven, Anandam. What to do? That is the kind of satsang I have here. Amitama, they only want to be Anandam. I am trying to think of moksha. Nobody thinks of moksha. The same onion dosha can take you to moksha, but they will not think. Balaji,
Yes, sir.
whether you are eating onion dosha or garlic dosha, never mind. Think of moksha. That's all.
I thought you were going to say that you're talking about the spread of dosa. I thought you were going to say it doesn't matter all the dosa. The important thing is that the dosa better, common for everything.
நீங்க different level இருக்கீங்க. Yes, Amitama.
Sir, drawing on what we have just learned, can I say that open-eyed meditation is being in a state of subjective becoming while participating in the objective experience?
Could you repeat that, please?
Being in a state of subjective becoming while participating in the objective experience.
What do you mean by being in the state of subjective becoming?
So this is about that inner, the being in that spiritual, what shall I say? I'm just going back to what we learned just now, right?
Yeah, yes.
That this whole journey, this whole spiritual journey is actually that subjective becoming, that the whole thing about going inwards. So when you're in a state of open-eyed meditation, you are constantly still in that state where your utmost attention and your utmost focus is completely on that subjective becoming. However, you are still within the world, like what Balaji said, we are still in the marketplace, right? And I'm just borrowing the terms that you had used just now. So while we are participating in the objective experience, we are constantly in a state of being in the subjective becoming.
Yes.
Is that a way to also define open-eyed meditation?
Yes, you could say so, but only condition is you are at that state of, let's say, 90% or 95% spiritually evolved state.
Okay.
Because the only goal you would have at the state of open-eyed meditation is self-realization. You have no other thought except realization. You have dropped all your attachments. You have dropped all your motives. So you're only performing selfless actions. So there are no mental bondages. And the only thing that drives you is realization. But still you have left with a few vasanas. I know obviously one of the foremost of vasanas is attained realization. You have the desire to learn the knowledge. Let's say you have a desire to serve this knowledge to the world. You want to serve your guru. You are grateful. So there are few, very handful of desires you have. You want to be in that satsang, in that environment. So other than that, you have no other vasana. All that have dropped off. All the other gross, lower desires have dropped. So at the level we are, we can't call it open-eyed meditation because we are not able to think of self-realization as our goal. Are we able to?
Not yet.
Not yet. In fact, if you can claim one or two actions, you are doing it for self-realization. Think of one or two actions. I'm only doing this for realization. I don't have any other interest but self-realization behind this action. Like every action has to have a goal. So what is the goal behind that? What is the intent behind that act? Even this knowledge, can you say I'm gaining this knowledge, I'm in this satsang only for moksha? What to do? I'm always the host in this class, therefore I have to attend. So you are attending because of a compulsion, not that moksha. In fact, you may say, I'll get moksha by not attending the class. Enna Balaji? I have some kind of obligation here, therefore I'm here. Really, yeah. It's not like that, isn't it? So everything that you do it for that ultimate objective. And you're able to acutely be aware of the consciousness in every transaction. So if, as Balaji said, if you have to be in the marketplace, yet think of the self, means you must take the entire happenings in the marketplace out of the equation. Nothing in the marketplace can dislodge your thought of the self. But why are you in the marketplace? Because you have a certain dharma, you have a certain obligation, you are forced into action. So you are still out in the world because you have a certain vasana. But action-wise, the action doesn't dislodge you of your thought of the self. So the marketplace is out of equation. There is nothing out there that would dislodge your thought of the self. It's a very, in fact, this state is described as dharana. Just for the technical purposes, it is called dharana, is an open-eyed meditation, which comes before dhyana, which is real meditation. In fact, the verse from the Gita, doesn't it say, Ananyash chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Ananya chinta, that capacity to have that consistency of purpose. The capacity to have the consistency of purpose. So if the thought of the self is consistently maintained in the various perceptions, emotions, and thoughts you entertain, that is open-eyed meditation. But the problem is the multifold activities we perform, we get distracted, don't we? Are you okay, Amitama? Right. So, and then he says, through one self, one attains power. Atmana vindate viryam. Vidyaya vindate amrutam. Vindate means one attains. Through oneself, one attains power. So through this, you attain power, he says. So through this principle of consistency, ananya chinta, at the relative level, you attain power. At the absolute level, you attain immortality. So the principle is the same. The direction is different. Atmana vindate viryam, vidyaya vindate amrutam. Yes, Tinkima?
In this context, Guruji, one attains power. What does that mean? Does it mean strength or mental strength or the power to control the mind? Or...
No, no. Power here means worldly success. At the worldly level, at relative level, you attain power. Means you are very successful through your own efforts by injecting this principle of consistency, ananya chinta. As we said, you achieve success and power. You inject the same consistency towards the goal of realization. You attain immortality. So absolute level, you gain immortality. Relative level, you gain power. Yes, Balaji.
just want to clarify the last line. Through knowledge, you gain immortality, right? But I thought you already passed that. Is right, even beyond knowledge, right? That would be through wisdom you gain immortality, right? I don't know. I just thought.
Now, when the Shastras, especially when the Upanishads, when they mean knowledge, is only wisdom.
Okay.
So you and I understand the difference between Vidya, knowledge, and Vairagya, which is expression of wisdom. But from their perspective, both are one and the same. Because there is nothing as incomplete knowledge. There's nothing as part knowledge or half knowledge. So for them, knowledge is wisdom. That's all. If you claim to know it, you must live it. But now, from our perspective, we know many things, but we don't live it.
Yeah. I mean, our perspective, there's a clear distinction between knowledge and wisdom. I mean,
so ours is a deteriorated state. They are in evolved state. There is no difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Okay. Yes.
Rajima, knowledge and wisdom. Where are you? So UK, successful in your worldly activities. Is there a question, Dharma, or a statement?
When you, Namaste Guruji, when you mentioned about power, does it mean when you're still in the worldly activity, when you're still attached, I mean, in the world, doing your dharma or your activities or whatever it is, does it mean that because of your total concentration and all, you will achieve the maximum in that? I mean,
correct. That's what it means. So if you apply the principle of awareing the consciousness, means cognizing the consciousness in every activity, means if you bring the principle of dedicating every action to its goal, it only brings about success.
Okay.
So the thought of what you want to become consumes you.
Okay.
Everything, for example, if you want to become the world's #1 tennis player, what do you need to do, Ma?
I mean, dedicated hard work and working towards your goal.
Which means eat tennis,
live tennis, breathe tennis, sleep tennis,
walk tennis. You know, if you see the life of these young, aspiring, any sportsman, you know, I see kids, you know, because I go to badminton courts every day to play there. So these kids come to get professionally trained, and they are at the age of 7, 8, some of them 10, 14, 15. So other day, a gentleman came and played with us.
Okay.
He was in his maybe early 50s, maybe, or late 40s, And his 2 daughters are ranked 10 and 12 in the country. And their daughters are 13 and 16 years. And they were training there. And those who knew that gentleman were, and there was an introduction and we were talking, he said, this man has gone through such sacrifice to just take them from every day he spends time, takes them to the courts, and he waits for them 3-4 hours because these kids have to be trained, food has to be given, be there, take them back, brought them back again later. So the amount of dedication and sacrifice the parents do and what the child has to go through.
Yes, Guruji. Yes.
So if somebody has to attain that they reach the top of the world, they're the top players. If you want to name any top player today, what amount of thought process, dedication, every action, everything is dedicated to their attainment of that goal.
Yes.
So the principle that they're implementing is what he's saying, Ananya Chinta. So tennis consumes their entire life.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it consumes. So if you bring in that ability to overwhelm, the goal should overwhelm and inject in every action, you will attain power in the world. But the same thing, if you are able to inject the thought of Brahman in every action, but he says through knowledge, what you get is immortality. So the absolute level, relative level. The principle is the same. That's what he's saying. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Okay. Hariji.
Guruji, when we say through oneself, one attains power. Here, the self is small self. It is
small self.
Body, mind, and intellect.
Yes.
Okay.
It is not the absolute self. It's small self.
Okay.
So it's through individual efforts, he's saying.
The body, BMI.
BMI. Yes. Tinkima.
Guruji, in the context of, you had said the thought of what you want to become consumes you. And we were talking about tennis, the goal to be number one. So does one have to set a goal to be number one? Or can mastery of the sport also be a goal? And if it can, then which goal is higher? And if the goal is being number one, then isn't the person looking for a fruit?
No. Even attaining self-realization in that sense is a fruit, if you talk in that sense. So if you want to be the top player, like for example, I told these kids were number 10, number 12 in the country. They say, I would like to be the top in the nation. So what drives them is I want to be the best player, which means I need to work more on my stamina. I need to work more on my agility. I need to work more on certain aspect of my game. So they are trying to bring in a certain amount of clarity to their efforts so that they reach the higher goal. And what's wrong with that? It's not being anxious. It's not being result oriented.
Guruji, in any competition, any competitive sport, it could be in the field of art or music or an exam or anything, one can set a goal of mastering the subject with concerted effort and doing their best. But one never knows what is the other person's level of talent, practice, how they have a natural aptitude for something. So somewhere setting that goal that I must be number one, would not that create mental agitation? So cannot mastery of that thing, whatever it is, whether it is art or music or tennis or whatever, cooking, being a chef, anything, being the best that you can one not set that as the goal? And then when one reaches and you keep playing, then if you are the best, you will anyway get the fruit. You will anyway become number one. Yeah. But when we put that competition thing, no, I have to be number one, then that, may affect
it is not an obsessive feeling. It's sort of trying to give clarity to your efforts. It's not that you must try to create any pressure on yourself or an anxiety to be number one, as you rightly said. But if you try to master that art and find areas areas where, for example, at every stage of the tournament, I don't know if you have noted in a tournament, Harish, if you have noted any, especially tennis, after the match, let's say quarters, that the player is interviewed right on the court itself. I hope you are all able to get little chance to see the Wimbledon that's going on, coming to the almost the later concluding half of the tournament. Harish, you are able to.
Guruji, no, I
Yes,
haven't been following the Wimbledon actually, Guruji.
Okay. So, but I'm sure you'll follow. They typically ask the player, now you're going into the semis, and there's a fair chance or you might meet this person or that person. So they are mentally gearing as to who would they be meeting in the next round. So when, let's say, they have come and they are anxious to know who they have to go to play, so that they know what kind of game they need to bring to be able to beat that person tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes.
So it is just that kind of clarity to your work to see how best to perform. So to bring the best out of you, it's not that, in fact, the person who becomes anxious on that day actually loses the game. So it's not becoming anxious or wanting to be number one, is just trying to excel and bring the best out of you in whatever you do. But there is, I would say also, there's nothing harm in saying I would want to reach that goal. There's a clear thing without any anxiety. So carry on doing what you need to do without an anxiety. Sorry, Tinkima, you are muted. I'm sorry. Yes, Harish, just hold on. Don't mute yourself, please. Yes,
so
ma'am.
that means they are setting a goal and working towards it, and they are not looking for the fruit of their effort. There is a difference?
Yes, there is always a difference.
Okay.
You have to have clarity of the goal, but the goal, if it starts distracting you in your action, then you say you have an anxiety for the fruit. See, the fruit and the goal are one and the same.
But no attachment as
but they should not, while you're acting, they should not be the anxiety for attaining the fruit.
Okay.
So you should not be over possessive. Having attained, if you say, oh, if I lose this match, I will lose that position, that also causes great restlessness. How does it matter if I have no more number one? It doesn't matter if I have no more number one. If you have that attitude that I should not become restless if I lose that position, insecurity should not be there. So the goal should neither create an anxiety for it. So the goal of not attaining should also not create the restlessness or insecurity from it, but continue to act. Then there's no concern. All right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So yes, Harish, you're okay with it?
Yes, Guruji. From what I understand, you're saying, for example, you gave in the tournament to bring the best out of you is basically to be mentally prepared intellectually as to how to deal with your opponent. That's what you mean, right, Guruji?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's just to meet your expectation, what to expect. Basically, you're assessing it intelligently as how to expect to deal with your opponent during the match.
Yeah. You are able to plan, you're able to prepare yourself what demands you for that particular match. No?
Yes.
I hope we have not lost the spirit of the verse. The verse is only trying to bring in that the capacity to inject that open-eyed meditation to get to the self. So if you are able to maintain, so he gives an assurance that you will attain immortality through cognizing the self. Now we are going through various experiences, but we are not cognizing the self in every experience, isn't it? Experiences are many, but what is lacking is the ability to cognize. So if the cognizing element gets triggered, so every element, if you oblate every element of action to that goal of realization, it is open-eyed meditation. But what is happening, every action you're performing, it seems to have multifold ends. It has different objectives. The commonality of the objective isn't there. So if the commonality of the objective is set, then it's open-eyed meditation. Otherwise, it's dissipation of energy. Multifold activities, multifold thoughts, thoughts are going in different directions. It drains you. It doesn't get you power, nor does it get you immortality. So the principle what the verse is talking about is consistency of purpose. And in order to get that consistency of purpose, you need to have a clear goal, a clear ideal, which the intellect has fixed. So you got to ask yourself, has my intellect reached that evolved state where it can conceive immortality as a goal? Has my intellect reached a state where it can conceive immortality? And the US, has the intellect evolved to the state where you can conceive immortality, where nothing else? So in fact, because of that, everything else has lost a charm for you in your life, isn't it? It really doesn't matter.
What you are doing it.
Yeah. So that for what? That for what can it be self-realization?
Has to be.
Has to be. That's like this. That's the spirit. So if it's anything other than that, it is a compromise. Doesn't it? I have seen enough of life. I've experienced what life has to dish out for me. I know what life is. I want to devote my life, the rest of my time, just for this purpose. And that could be a very serious thought, isn't it? Thereafter, everything else that matters is only getting there. It's like how serious you're preparing before you do any expedition or any serious, I want to achieve something. You've got a lot of sacrifice, isn't it? A lot of sacrifice goes in, a lot of thought goes in. You don't think of anything else but that. Imagine the whole life you're consumed with this thought, nothing else. You almost feel fearful, isn't it? Oh my God. Can't think of anything else. No, you are everywhere, yet you're only doing things which will take you there. Imagine a tennis player who has reached the finals of the tennis. He has a party with his coach and his friends. The coach will not allow, with his friends. And his fiancée has gone out for a party and he gets dead drunk and sleeps in the wee hours of the morning. And at 10 o'clock, there's a match, Wimbledon finals. That fellow is drunk at 1 o'clock in the morning, partying in the pub, celebrating that he reached the finals. You lost your purpose. You lost your focus.